What up, guys? Today I'm going to be talking about One Piece and specifically the Whole Cake Island arc and why I personally think it sucks and why I hate this arc and my thoughts and opinions on this arc as a whole. Now, before I get into talking about why I hate this arc, I will explain why I'm talking about this arc, even though it ended quite a while ago and the Wano arc just ended not too long ago. I think like a couple of days ago or maybe a week ago it just ended. There's still some episodes left for them to finish Wano, but they're pretty much wrapped up the whole fight with, Kaido and Big Mama. So some of you guys are probably wondering, why the hell is he talking about it right now? And I do have an interesting story in my relationship with One Piece, especially the anime itself, because I do mostly, like I like anime more than the manga. Just in general, I just like anime more than manga. So usually when I get into a series, I want to watch the anime, and the only times I really get into the manga is if I find it really interesting and I want to check out the difference between the manga, or I feel like the anime I caught up and there's a lot of more material I want to get into, so I just go into the manga itself. So when it came to One Piece, I did go past the Whole Cake arc, but when it came to watching the anime, I kind of stopped in 2018 because at that point, I really caught up with all of One Piece. And as you guys have watched One Piece, you would know that the problem about One Piece's anime is the pacing, obviously. And the big problem with the pacing is that if there's a ton of episodes and you're watching it, it's not too much of a problem because, you can go through multiple episodes. But when you're waiting weekly for it, it can be very unbearable to watch, really, because if you watch each episode, the pacing is so bad. They do a ton of flashbacks, they do a ton of pointless scenes, they have a lot of pointless information, stuff that you don't care about, and most of the times when I would watch it, I would skip a lot of parts. That's how I was able to watch so many episodes so quick. So many people ask, like, when I was watching it, they're like, how did you watch hundreds of episodes of a series this quick? And my response was, I literally just pressed the arrow button and skipped 5 seconds multiple times because so many of these episodes, a lot of the content in it is just not entertaining in my opinion personally. So usually when I watched it, I would watch around like 7 to maybe 13 minutes of the episode as a whole because majority of the content in it is kind of pointless. And unlike other One Piece fans, I care even less about some of like the conversations they have if it doesn't have anything to do with the main fights or the main story or lore or world building or anything interesting. If it's just idle chit chat, or if it's not entertaining idle chit chat like between Sanji and Zoro where it's like funny back and forth, if it's not that, I do not care to watch it, so I usually skip. And when I caught up to it, I basically was at a point where I was watching it on a weekly basis, and usually I like to skip the episodes, so it was getting unbearable because, like I said, normally I only watch a couple of minutes of the episode because most of the other parts of the episodes were pretty pointless to me, and I felt like a waste of time. And especially if you're going to be watching hundreds upon hundreds of episodes, I can't just sit through every second of it, all the 22 to 23 minutes of the show. I have to skip some parts, right? And at that, what am I doing? I'm just waiting each week or each other week because there might be some hiatuses and stuff and some holidays or whatever, so they have to put it off. And I'm going to be watching weekly dozens of episodes where I'm going to just be watching a couple of minutes, 7 to 8 minutes at most. So I just told myself, you know what? I'm going to let this show go on, accumulate more episodes, which that's the most normal thing that most, One Piece fans do. Usually when you watch like an anime, some people let the anime have extra episodes and wait, and then they go back on it. But usually they can watch it on a weekly basis. But when it comes to One Piece, there's just too many episodes. There's just too much pointless scenes that doesn't matter. So you doing that is not a very good option to have, right? So I waited and I waited for so long to the point that it was like dozens of episodes, and I forgot my placement and where I was in the Whole Cake Island arc. So I was like, shit. I just don't know when to start, and I didn't want to. So I waited for literally 5 whole years. I waited until towards the tail end of 2023. That came out like halfway through, I think it was halfway through 2018 when I stopped. So I had to go through 5 years of it. So that's why I'm talking to you guys about it right now. I also do want to mention that I want to make a video tomorrow. I was planning on making it today, but I had another video I had to make today. But I'll make a video tomorrow. I don't know what to title it because it's a specific thing about One Piece that I want to talk about. I'll explain a little bit in this video. I want to talk about of you guys have seen on YouTube what the live action One Piece when it came out. There was a lot of reaction channels reacting to it, and this wasn't even anime reaction channels. It was just random reaction channels, ones that watch just regular movies and TV shows. But a lot of these channels that I saw popping up were channels that either one never watched One Piece, or two never even watched anime. So these were channels that don't know shit about One Piece or even anime in general, or they were non-anime watchers that they stated in their title, and then they were watching One Piece live action, and I felt like they were kind of mooching off of it. And I want to make a video, I will be making a video tomorrow talking about why I feel like I don't like it, and my personal thoughts on why I don't like it, and go in depth in that, but I just don't know what to title it. So if you guys have any suggestions for a title for my next video on that, like talking about specifically reaction channels of people that, I'm not talking about the reaction channels of people that watch anime and One Piece and know it and want to see the live action adaptation of it. I'm not talking about those people. I don't have any problem with them. I'm talking about the people that don't watch anime, don't watch One Piece, but want to watch that just to, for content and to get, views. I want to talk about that because I have a gripe to pick with them. But I don't know what to title it. Should I just title it like non-anime fans watching, live action One Piece pissed me off? Those titles seem like they're kind of long, so I just wanted to know that. But yeah, getting into this, sorry for the long-winded, stuff. If you want to skip around, you can skip till around like 7:40. So, okay. Now getting into the Whole Cake Island arc. Why do I think it's trash? I was watching all these episodes at once. I did, like I said, where I ended off was like halfway through the arc. I think by the point where I was at when I last stopped was Sanji getting ready for his wedding with Pudding, and then Big Mama planning her plan of executing Sanji there after he says yes, and then taking out the Vince Smokes, his entire family, the German 666, or German 666, taking them out, and then Luffy and it was Capone, I think Al Capone or whatever his name. I'm just gonna call him Al Capone. I know his name was Benji or whatever. Al Capone was working with Luffy. He was under Big Mama, but he betrayed her, and then he was working with Luffy to assassinate Big Mama and take her out. And Big Mama was planning to assassinate Sanji and take out his family, whereas Luffy and Al Capone, who was working for her, were planning to assassinate her, and they're trying to get her to freak out, and while she's freaking out, to attack her with poison and kill her. And like I said, I forgot a lot of stuff, but I had to go through that episode, so I went back to some of the episodes that I watched, but I just didn't remember, like Sanji fighting Luffy. I went through the whole Pudding exposing who she truly was, Sanji meeting her, his entire family, stuff like that, and then I went through the entire arc. At that point, the arc itself is, I think, around 130 episodes as a whole, which is insane. One arc in One Piece is literally as long as entire long series. Like, Dragon Ball Super was 132 episodes. The Whole Cake Island arc was literally almost as long or even longer than all of Dragon Ball Super. And the Wano arc was even more longer than Dragon Ball Super as a whole. That's just insane to think. And those are just single arcs. So when you have these long, really drawn out arcs, the thing is, it can be very annoying and taxing, and, it could be a big thing for a lot of us fans when we're watching it. We usually, when we watch animes can stretch out stories and stuff. Definitely Dragon Ball has done this with, Goku versus Frieza, but One Piece does this to the highest extent. So it's already long, right? And when you see anything long, like a movie or a show, you hope that at least the arc of the movie, the reason why it's long is because they had a lot of, necessary content or entertaining, storytelling or stuff that is important and matters. Not just like filler writing where it's unimportant. And I don't mean filler as in it's not a part of the canon story. I mean like filler as in it's boring shit that is not necessary. You could have cutted that out and you could have just gone straight forward. And that was my biggest problem with the Whole Cake Island arc was, 1, the pacing was horrible. 2, it was way too long. 3, it had a lot of pointless ass shit in it. 4, I just didn't care for the arc itself. 5, it didn't really have any much of, it didn't really matter that much. It mattered more towards leading up to Wano itself, but the arc itself didn't really matter. And my feelings towards Big Mama herself as a villain and her crew. So going through the pacing itself, the pacing is ridiculous. Okay, it is. It is not even the anime's fault because the manga, most of the anime, they had a couple episodes that had filler, so most of it wasn't filler, and some of the episodes they have mix of filler with canon, but most of these episodes was mostly canon. And I know this because I usually, when I check out a show, especially shows as long as this, I go to a filler list and it shows every episode that either was just complete filler or complete canon and canon mix of filler. And majority of these episodes were some filler with canon, but most of them were just canon. So this is not even an anime pacing issue. It's a manga pacing issue because the shit that they were putting in this was from the manga itself. So I can't blame the anime solely on this. I know a lot of One Piece fans, they want to deflect and say the anime has bad pacing, especially after the whole 2-year time skip with the whole Marineford arc incident, right? And they blame the anime, but they say the manga has really great pacing. But the anime literally adapted the majority of the manga's content there, and it made it this long. So no, it's not just the anime that has shitty pacing. They might make it worse, but the manga's pacing is dog shit too. And I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for that. I don't care. One Piece's manga is not necessary to be that fucking long. It's like Oda is just trying to reach a quota of being super long and just trying to be like, hey, look, I'm breaking these benchmarks and records. Even though there's other series that have done it too, but he wants to put himself in these records in it too. Because there's no reason for these fucking arcs, especially this one, to be this fucking long. And I will explain to you guys what parts of this arc and why I feel like these parts would have been better just cut out or at least trimmed heavily. So I do not want to see any more people saying shit like the One Piece anime has bad pacing but the manga is good. No, the manga's pacing is dog shit too, just admit it. One Piece's manga is still good. It's still a good series. I enjoyed it, but this shit is not necessary. Doflamingo's arc, fun. I liked it. It's actually my favorite arc from One Piece. But I hate the pacing. It would have been better if they cut down most of the shit that we did not need. At least with Dragon Ball, the whole Frieza shit, you can argue, well, it was because the manga was going and it caught up with the manga, so they needed to pad out time, so, to catch up with the manga. That was not the case with this. The manga was ahead of its time. It had enough material. The anime just fucking was slow because so much material it had to cover from the manga itself. So, in the case of something like Dragon Ball or other anime series, the argument is it caught up with the manga and it needed some way to fall back or delay itself from, catching up further, right? One Piece does not have that excuse. It is just fucking long. It is not necessary. So, fuck that. So don't make any excuses for that shit. And what happens in this? Well, we have the lead up to, Sanji leaving, then Luffy's wondering why did he leave, then him taking his crew to there, then him splitting off with his crew, half of his crew goes to Wano to be undercover and try to formulate the plan to take down Kaido and his regime, and then you have the other to go after Big Mama to stop Sanji in this wedding and stuff, find out what's happening, and then later on to assassinate her. So the beginning built up reasonable, what's happening. I think you could have cut out some stuff, but the second half after the wedding and stuff, I think some of the events were cool, but after that, it became just repetitive. And this is the one problem with One Piece. I know a lot of people love One Piece, and I'm not trying to shit on One Piece, but let's be honest, even if you love a series, you can criticize it. I've critiqued the fuck out of Dragon Ball, so I'm not going to be sitting here saying, Dragon Ball's amazing and One Piece is dog shit. I've talked about Dragon Ball's writing, power scaling, logic, just decisions in general. So don't come here and say you're just a Dragon Ball fanboy who's trying to shit on One Piece. Because I do like One Piece, and even though I like Dragon Ball more, I do fucking hold all these stuff, with the same level of critique. And the criticism that you guys have to accept is a lot of the shit that Oda writes, it is good, but a lot of the shit he writes is pointless as shit. It's dumb as fuck. Do you need this? And people say that Dragon Ball's formulaic or these other animes are formulaic. One Piece is fucking formulaic too. You don't think that's formulaic? like from the beginning, what like the him picking the crew. Every time there was one crew he picked, and then you see their whole backstory. Then you have to deal with their problem. Then you go to the next crew, and they have a sad backstory. You have to deal with their entire problem. And you spend a couple episodes, then you get new ones. And then you go on a new voyage. Then you go to another character. You have another problem they have to deal with. So that's what they did at the beginning. But that was fine. Now their thing is, we go to a whole arc. We have Luffy fight this big threat early on when he's not prepared. He doesn't train properly, gets his ass beat, then has to get away, train some way either while in the middle of the fight or while he's gone. He's running away from the fight or trying to evade it, or they're trying to have a build up throughout countless episodes, and he's trying to get back to fighting him, and he might lose to the person multiple times and has to rehash it or run away. Or he, gets enough power to beat them. This arc, what happens is, they set off Big Mama. When she goes crazy, they can attack her with poison and kill her. But the problem with Big Mama, what happens is, when she goes off, she lets out a wail that basically debilitates everybody and sends out like a force to protect her. And then her kids are trying to fight. Her kids realize what's happening because Katakuri, her second eldest son, who is the most powerful, has the ability of future sight where he can see through the future, and he's able to tell what's happening, and then he stops it, and then Big Mama goes on a rampage. Then we have Luffy fighting against Katakuri, but Katakuri is too powerful for Luffy. His ability is stronger than his, faster than his, and just better all around than his, right? And he also has future sight where he's advanced with his observation haki, where Luffy did not have that. And it's back and forth. Luffy is basically this entire time is just Luffy using different moves, and then Katakuri saying, I can do the same thing but better, and then beating the shit out of him, and then Luffy tries to hit him, and then him using the observation haki, and then Luffy trying to understand more. He got his ass beat multiple times and left. Then you have Big Mama just going on a rampage. So one half, it's Luffy fighting against Katakuri, basically just reusing the same moves, just keep on doing new things and hitting him multiple times. It's either both them just, doing these vanishing attacks where they move around and vanish and hit, and it's like, Dragon Ball when they have the big, shockwaves and you don't see them. It's just, it was either repeating that or having Luffy keep on using his abilities, but then having Katakuri using his abilities and beating him, or Luffy trying to hit him and then him using his observation haki, moving his body. They repeated the fuck out of that sequence so much. They could have trimmed that down a fuck ton. Then you had the whole Big Mama just going on a rampage. This pissed me off because one, the rampage was dumb, which I'll get into that later, but this has to do with the pacing. She was just chasing after them. So the rest of the crew members like Brook, Chopper, Nami, and there was the Rabbit girl, I forgot what her name was. And also Jinbei, because he joined the crew towards this point. He was already part of Big Mama, but he betrayed them. And then you have Capone running away. So then this is just Luffy repeating the same moves, getting outclassed by Katakuri, and then Katakuri using the same abilities, and then Luffy trying to understand and trying to adapt and just getting his ass beat a lot. Then you have the rest of Luffy's crew just trying to get away from Big Mama and her crew, and just Big Mama rampaging. And her rampage was dumb as shit for the reason. So she's just going on a rampage. That's the entire thing. You stretch this out over hundreds of episodes, fucking chasing after him. There's literally just dozens upon dozens of episodes of Luffy doing the same thing, not fucking improving a little bit, but mostly not improving, and him training against a guy who was way more powerful than him. Then he gets his ass beat, escapes, and then the second half, after Big Mom's chasing them, now it's not just Luffy fighting Katakuri, it's Katakuri's out of his dimension or whatever, or he's still in the mirror dimension, and now Luffy is just running away from Big Mama. Now it's a whole story of him running away from Big Mama, trying to realize how to, increase his observation haki so he can get future sight, so he can fight Katakuri, and we know it's building up to that. So he's just running away, and then his crew's trying to run away, then his crew's fighting off Big Mama's kids, trying to fight back and forth. It's just a whole back and forth struggle. And then the ending, Luffy doesn't even fight Big Mama, because he's just running away from her. He fights Katakuri, he's, adapting, and then Katakuri gets better, and then he gets better, and then in the ending, he beats him with his Snake Man form, which he beats her in a kind of lame way because Katakuri beat his ass way more. Luffy only hit him seriously, he hit him a couple times, but one time he hit him really significantly where Katakuri beat the shit out of him the entire time, yet Luffy wins with that one significant strike, which is weird. But he beats him, then they get out, and then they're trying to escape, and his kid's going to Overdrive, trying to stop them. Also, we have whole Sanji's thing, where Sanji got broken free, And since Big Mom was rampaging, and her main thing, I'm gonna get to it. Actually, I'll just explain it right now. She was basically rampaging because they destroyed her wedding cake and she wanted to try some. They did way more shit to her, but that was the main reason she was on a rampage. You would think that everything else that transpired before this would have been the reason, but no, it was just that. And there's just Sanji baking a cake and then them trying to get the cake to her. Then there's stuff getting it away from him trying to get the cake to her. It's like, oh my god, this is the most boring, like, drawn out bullshit ever. This arc is fucking ass. Is the definition of nothing happened. The only cool thing was the fight against Katakuri. I think there's some cool stuff, but it's like, come on. Just because it has some cool things doesn't, make up for the whole arc being, pointless and, repetitive and overly drawn out itself. It was basically, the only cool things we got was Snake Man. Oh, the Snake Man form. Luffy getting the officer, future side. Him beating Katakuri, which is a guy who's never beaten. And then them just escaping Big Mom and saving Sanji. And then Sanji showcasing to putting, how much of a good guy he is, and then showcasing to his family that, hey, look, you guys look down on me, but look at me now. I saved your asses. You guys can talk all this shit, but I don't need you guys. I'm above you, except for his sister, which she was like a very nice person. But yeah, that whole arc, that was bullshit. I hated that. It was just they stretched it out. I felt like the fight between Luffy and Katakuri, you do not need him to repeat the same moves and waste dozens of episodes doing that. You could shorten that fight quicker. You could have had Luffy learn how to train faster. You could have had Big Mama's whole rampage a lot shorter. You could have had all these other subsequent fights a lot shorter. We did not need all this. What did you gain from, Brook fighting against, because there was like 3 or 4 episodes of Brook and Chopper fighting against just like these weak guys, these weak, fodder-ass henchmen that was coming out of the mirror dimension, just fighting them, and then them fighting the rest of the guys is like, come on, you could have skipped over so much. You could have cut it out. And the best way to, explain this is like a movie. Now, we'll get into the explanation later, but I just want to talk about the writing itself. You're telling me the story about the whole, assassination, I think that was cool. I do think their plan was kind of lame, though. Just make her go crazy and then just shoot poison at her and that would kill her. Like, really? That was your biggest thing? Okay, whatever. But it didn't work. It was easy to fail. They did, and the biggest problem was Big Mama herself. I think she's a lame villain. Her rampage was so dumb. She went on a rampage simply because the cake. They did worse to her. They ruined her plan of trying to take out the Vinsmokes and Germa 66, and Sanji and stuff. That whole big plan. They did that. They destroyed a picture of her adoptive mother, which she was kind of a bitch, but she didn't know that. She respected her and loved her, right? They did that. They fucked up your wedding. They did all this. The only thing you're mad about is they ruined your cake. You fat bitch. You fat, overweight bitch. That's the only thing that made you fucking mad that you're going on a rampage. Like, I get it if you're going on a rampage, but what was the reason? That? And some of you guys might say, well, didn't Beerus, try to threaten to blow up the planet and was going to destroy the whole universe because of pudding? Yeah, but here's the difference between Beerus and him. Beerus and Big Mama, at least. Beerus, at least you can argue that, well, he's a godly being and that since he's been a godly being and, he has this high prestige, he's always had people kiss his ass and always people, treat him well. So when somebody disrespects him, that pisses him off. And you would expect that, if you were a godly being and somebody was being rude like Boo was, he just wanted pudding and he was being an asshole. So to him, it's like it makes sense that he would go overboard. But he was also planning to do that beforehand, not because of the pudding, but specifically because of, he wanted to be the Super Saiyan God, and he was already annoyed by that he woke up early to fight Super Saiyan God, and he couldn't find the Super Saiyan God, and then on top of the pudding incident, and then, Boo pissing him off. So he had other reasons, and they even stated themselves, Goten's like, are you stupid? You're really starting all this shit over pudding? And then he got smacked, and he fell down, and he's crying, he's really? He's whatever. But they were pointing that it was stupid, whereas One Piece, they're making it a big deal. And then also, Beerus, you can understand with his prestige, it was more of his disrespect, and then he had other things that he explained. Whereas Big Mama, like I said, it was fine of her raging because of what happened, but the cake, come on, that's all the thing that made you mad, you fat ass, come on, calm down. And then they showed her backstory, what she did to that giant village where she killed one of the leaders for fucking those things. It was just cream puffs. I'm like, this stupid bitch. She really like went up crazy, and then they want to let her get her killed. I was like, man, they should have killed her off. Just I don't like characters like that. I think that's just lame. Her whole thing was that she loses her temper and goes on a rampage just because she didn't get desserts. Her fat ass needs desserts. That's such a lame character. And then the way her like sound effects, I don't even want to say to her when she does that ma 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 shit. That shit is corny as fuck. I know One Piece does that where they have these quirky things about these characters where they have weird laughs or weird designs, like one of her kid, Lick Lick, whatever his name is. He had his tongue sticking out most of the time when he's talking. I do not like that. I think that shit looks goofy. If you show this to a non-anime fan, like a casual anime fan, or just, somebody that doesn't know that much about anime, they're like, what the fuck is this? This seems kiddish and goofy as fuck. And I'm just like, it's good, but yeah, I can see where you're coming from. Just her mama thing, it made me cringe every time she did it. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Her character is just stupid and annoying in general. It's just dumb. She's just a fat ass who just loves eating a ton of pastries and sugary stuff, and if she doesn't get it, she's just gonna go crazy. So that was dumb. But like I said, the main thing was the pacing. And also the story, the end of it, what was the end? Luffy and them just save Sanji. They run away the entire time. He fights and beat Katakuri, which that was cool, but he's just running away, and then they just escape, and then we continue with her coming to Wano, and then have to deal with her and against Kaido. So we have to wait forever for that fight and for it to die. I was just waiting for it to die. I actually spoiled myself. I found out it was like episode 67, and I was like, I can't wait for her to die. So I was just like, this is a benchmark. Once she died, I was so happy. I was like, fuck this bitch. I'm so happy she's dead. So her death brought me pure joy, but it wasn't because that her character was like some evil character, like she was evil done so good that they made her love you to hate her. It was more so she was cringy, she was annoying, she was lame, she was just a lame ass fucking villain, and I just wanted her to die because I thought she was whack. So that was the only reason I wanted her to die, not because she was so good that she was bad. It was just she was very lame, and I would just prefer her to be dead. But yeah, I didn't care for her. But like I said, the only big problem is I want to say the only big problem. Those were problems, but the pacing definitely really ruined it. Definitely even for the Dressrosa arc where they fought Doflamingo. I love that arc. I love Doflamingo as a villain, but I felt like they didn't need that. It's like watching like these long ass movies that are 3 hours long. Some of them are 4 hours long. Like the Snyder Cut, it was over 5 hours long. It's like, dude, this is a fucking whole ass sitting. I think it was like 5 hours, 6 hours long. I watched it and I thought it was good, but I felt like, yeah, I get it. That some of it required to be longer, but it didn't need all that length. It could have been trimmed down, and that's what happens when you watch a lot of movies that are 3 hours or 3 hours plus, and just like the movie was good. You can still enjoy the movie, but it would be better if they paced it and shortened it a lot. Because a lot of these writers think that, let me just put in everything. Like, you don't need it. Shorten it down, especially if it's pointless stuff. Don't repeat. Here's the rule of thumb if you're going to cut out something and what you should cut out. 1, of it's repetitive. 2, of it draws out more than it needs to be. 3, of it's just, badly paced. And 4, of it's just pointless, right? Those things you need to exclude. So you can shorten them. Now, the film, of the reason it's long is because it like, let's say it didn't have those things in it and it was still long, I can give it a pass. I can give it a pass that it's like over 3 hours long. Because I've seen movies that are over 3 hours long. If it doesn't have those things in it, then I can, you can justify the fact that it was that long. But for One Piece, these arcs, there's no justification for it being this damn long. Because it is repetitive, it is drawn out, it is overstretched, and it is boring and pointless. What the fuck was the point of doing it? Like I said, if you want to make this arc, you could have made it way smaller. You could have made the build up a lot quicker. You could have made up the, get into the wedding quicker. You could have had the attack on her in the wedding faster. You could have had the fight between Katakuri and Luffy a lot quicker. Instead of having Luffy getting his ass beat and repeating so many moves over and over again, they could have had Luffy show a couple of his moves or show off just all of his movesets and then show Katakuri outmatching him, then have a little bit of a back and forth and him trying to understand that, hey, he has something that is giving him an advantage. Then just have him lose quicker, have him go through that. The whole rampage, you could have cut that to like 10% or 25% of its length. they had the fight with the henchmen. You could have just had a couple of the henchmen coming out to fight Brook and Chopper, and you could have had like the other guys being a little bit of threat shorter and like a little bit of their assaults shorter, and the whole Sanji making the cake. You could have skipped a lot of that. I think a lot of this story you could skip over. We've seen this all the time. There's important fights that we've seen. Aokiji versus I forgot what his name is. I keep on thinking Akuma. It's not Akuma. It's what's the lava guy that punched a hole through Ace? I forgot his name. But they skipped that fight, right? They skipped other stuff. They skipped, a lot of the training that these guys did when the 2-year time skip. They did show some, but they skipped a lot of stuff. Fine. We're okay with that. But why are these arcs, they're not skipping the shit that we don't care about? Do we need to see these arcs where we see like people like Usopp and Nami who are useless running away in terror most of the time? Do we need to see them fighting weak ass characters? One thing that pissed me off in this arc and in the Wano arc, which I'll talk about the Wano arc in another video, but my opinions on Wano arc, I'm not gonna say what it is. I'm not gonna say if I liked it or hated it. So save your judgment on what you think I think about that one. But one of the big also problems is a lot of times it's Luffy fighting off Luffy or any of these characters, mainly Luffy, Zoro, these major characters fighting off hordes, and I mean hordes of fodder ass weak characters. Like, we do not need to see this. Either just cut it out entirely, or just allude to the fact that they wiped out dozens of them, or just like do it away where they speed it up. Like, we know that Luffy, when he came into the Marineford arc, in the beginning of it, he just used his Conqueror's Haki and wiped out thousands of people instantly. Just do that every time. Anytime there's like a whole horde, just use him to use Conqueror's Haki where he wipes out a bunch of them. Or just skip it. Like, we don't need to see this. It's like, these tournament arcs you see in the anime. There's a lot of fights. Some fights, they skip over because it's like, we don't need to see every individual fight. Some fights where it's like, okay, just skip over and just have the big ones out there, right? That's how you do it good. In this, don't show us fodder, characters getting wiped out. I've seen whole hordes of Luffy wiping out. At this point, it was like thousands to tens of thousands of characters just drawn to get beaten that don't matter. You just see Luffy running around punching them, and then he's fighting multiple. And then sometimes they put these weak ass characters even doing some pushback. It's like, oh my god, stop. Who asked for this shit? Just fucking end it, man. Like, come on. I want to get through it. So that's why I skip over these episodes. And like I said, I would have died if I had to wait every week. I'm waiting weeks for them just to repeat the same thing, because I was fortunate enough to skip, wait for years just to have hundreds of episodes to go through. If I had to go weekly, I would probably just kill myself. That's why I quit, and this is one of those shows that you have to binge like that, which sucks because it's like, if it had better pacing, you wouldn't need to binge it so much, but it has such bad pacing that most of the episodes you can skip. So when I was going through this, it took me like a week or a week and a half to finish 300 episodes. I was like around 700 something. 737. Episode 737, I think it was, or 750, and I got to episode 1077. So you're gonna say, damn, that's a lot. I did watch a lot, I will admit still, but I skipped some episodes. I didn't even skip fully the episodes, but I usually just skip majority of it. Some episodes I watched 5 minutes or 6 minutes of content because that's all that was important. That's not good. It's not good. And the manga, like I said, it took mostly from the manga, so it would be me skipping most of the dialogue, most of the pages throughout the manga, just to get to the parts that matter. So yeah, like, they had a lot of hordes like that. Just stop repeating the rampage, stop repeating the back and forth fights, stop repeating him training, and stop repeating him fighting fodder. And then also make Big Mama a little bit more of a better character, less cringy, less stupid. Make her rampage more reasonable why she did it, instead of just, I want to kick it, I'm a fat fuck who can't, control my diabetes, So yeah, I hated this arc. I think it sucked ass. I don't hate One Piece. I think a lot of the arcs were really great. I think, the beginning arc was great. Arlong Park was great. The whole, Marineford was great. Arlong Park was great. The beginning arc of One Piece was great. I know a lot of people don't like the beginning, but I liked it. I don't like Thriller Park that much, though. I like Dressrosa, even though that was long. And I like all these other arcs, but I even like Skypiea. I think Skypiea was actually pretty entertaining, but I just felt like this one was shit. So don't think I'm a hater of One Piece. It's just I think this is bad. And like, come on, let's be honest. One Piece fans, if you're being reasonable and not being a fanboy or a fangirl or dick riding the series, you can wholeheartedly admit that you would rather just have all that shit cut out, and if you can have it shorter, you would. Because 130 episodes, it didn't need to be. I think at most it could have been like 60 or 70 episodes. That's still long, but you could have cut it down to 60 to 70 episodes. If I was having the reins of writing this, like let's say Oda wasn't, I would have cut out a lot of shit. Or if I was Oda's editor, I don't know if he does have it. I think from what I heard, he doesn't have anybody like tell him what to do. Toriyama does. And I think some of these writers need that. Even if Oda is a great writer, he writes pointless as shit. A lot of this information we don't need. Like, skip that. Some of the backstory is interesting. Some of the story is interesting. And I like some of the stuff, but as a whole, I think it was a waste of time. So, yeah. I hope you guys... Oh, yeah, before I ended, like I said, what is the title do you want me to call the other video? Because I do want to talk about those guys, the non-anime fans / non-One Piece fans reacting to the live action just to, profit off of it and not giving a shit about the actual series. I want to talk about my problems with that. So I just need to know what to title it because I'm just kind of lost. Maybe I should just title it whatever, and then I'll just, whatever like crazy title I can come up with, and I'll explain more in the description down below. The reason why I explained it in this video is because if you guys are checking out this video, then it's easier for you guys when you watch that video. You're like, oh, I know what he means. And because reading sometimes, the whole point of a title of a video is to explain the meaning, what's going to happen in the video, but it can be sometimes like confusing. You're just like, what the fuck does that even mean? But sometimes it's not our fault. We don't know what to word it. What the fuck am I supposed to word that? So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for next time.